the timing of the cuts influences how fast the market reacts. If you do a giant rate cut in November, it's going to have a different impact on the market than if I drop the interest rate 50 basis points in March. That would be instant.
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds. How's our audio, Tom?
Audio is good. Welcome back, everybody, to the Tom Storey Show. On today's show, I get to talk to a real estate expert, someone who I consider one of my best friends in the real estate industry, a legend in their market. Also, guys, Steve is here too, but today's guest is Mike Kearns. Welcome back, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, guys. We're looking forward to it.
So, Mike, Collingwood, Thornbury, Meaford, Owen Sound. We'll quickly just, Steve doesn't let me ask people where they work anymore. I'm not allowed, but get it over.
Southern Georgian Bay region. So I live in Collingwood. So Collingwood, Thornbury, Beaver Valley. That's kind of our niche. So
awesome. So before we get into interest rates, what Bank of Canada just did, just one PSA for me and Steve. Next week's episode. So if you listen to us every Sunday, next week's going to be different because we are going live. So what we're doing is we're actually going live on this YouTube channel on Sunday, November the 3rd at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it will be available to watch live. You can catch the replay in the live section of it. Steve, am I saying this the right way?
Yeah, there's a live tab. Unfortunately, it won't go in the regular tab. It'll go in the live tab if you're watching on the replay. And that means if we're doing it live, it won't be out for a few hours on audio. So bear with us. But if you're up and you need it at 6 a.m. Pacific, it will not be on Spotify. It will be on YouTube.
Just a few.
You must join the chat. Join the chat, and let's have some fun. Let's do it.
You must have a really safe guest on next week, eh?
No guest.
No guest.
Well, what we figure, right, is we'll open up the live chat and just kind of answer questions as they come in.
Yeah.
Give people enough notice to know to jump on when we're going live. Okay, so earlier this week, Michael, Tiff and the gang decided to make what a lot of the headlines previously leading up to it were calling a jumbo cut. The way I'm thinking about this, it's more like a 2-for-1. I wouldn't really call it a jumbo. I think 75 or a full point would have been a jumbo. Initial reaction, basically, from what just happened?
Well, I think historically, it would classify as a jumbo cut. I think the only times in recent years that they've made anything more than a 25 basis point cut going down is like 2008 financial crisis, right. When the pandemic struck. So I think from a policy standpoint, it is pretty jumbo. Is it jumbo enough from a real estate perspective to really shake up the market? I mean, maybe it's not as jumbo with that lens, but it's certainly meaningful. I think it's interesting how Canadians have become so hyper-focused on
it's an event.
Interest. Yeah, I think I saw somebody posted on social yesterday that a Bank of Canada announcement is like the Super Bowl for Canadians. So it's become a big thing, but it's interesting because it's although it's good news for those of us that sell real estate, those of us that own real estate in terms of values. I mean, I think it's we need to think about it as being not necessarily good news of what's coming down the pipeline, right? Like the Bank of Canada wouldn't be making these moves if they weren't looking at the data that's coming down the pipeline and being like, we've got some tough days ahead with the economy, with employment. So, I think the media is constantly putting it with just like a positive lens. Even certainly politicians. I mean, we're seeing Christian Freeland and Justin Trudeau making a victory lap, but it's probably not great news.
Can we talk about the negatives of this? Like looking on the other side of the perspective here, is it purely just about potential job losses if the economy just isn't going in the right direction?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think that's what's driving it. I think the I'm sure the banks are in the ear of the policymakers too, and they want to stabilize their portfolio too, right? So I think that's probably a lot of it. But it has many implications, and I'm certainly not an expert, so I'm just parroting what other people have said. But it's it probably puts inflation at some risk again for reigniting real estate prices to reignite once we get a spring demand. So it's certainly not going to make real estate more affordable. And then I guess there's, depending on what like the U.S. Fed does, it could have serious implications for the Canadian dollar, right? So, especially if we're not working in tandem with what their cuts are going to look like, right? So,
right. Steve, how are you feeling this week? Are clients having conversations with you? Do they want to know how this impacts them? Does anybody care? Is it just another headline that we knew was coming?
Nobody knows the difference still.
Right.
Nobody knows that the bond, because I think CIBC is sitting right now at 3.99% for a 5-year fixed uninsured. So at that rate, everybody's like, oh, interest rates are coming down. And they still don't know that those two things are not tied. So
they've already priced it into fixed rates, right? So
yeah. So I don't know. It's I seem to be not doing exactly what the market's doing in my personal business, because our September was gangbusters. Our whole summer, our July, our August, our September was great, and October's been meh, like fine. It hasn't been lights out, but all our board stats are going the other way. Like things are flipping. Like sales are really increasing, and by really increasing, I mean 20% over last month, which is, I mean, it's not double, but it's doing pretty good. So I'm personally not seeing it. I am falling into the trap of all real estate agents fall into at this time of year, which is lots of phone calls. We're going to wait till spring. We're going to get ready for the spring market. And maybe that's actually going to be a good thing this year compared to now anyway. I mean, I think we're going to start to see a lot more activity in the new year as buyers start. There's a chance that some buyers are going to start hitting that 5.25% here again pretty quick for the stress test, right? Like if we're at 3.99, we're not that far off. So I do think the biggest thing that this is all going to fix is that whole mortgage renewal cliff crisis that even myself a year ago was worried about at, let's call them 6.39% 5-year fixed rates. That ain't happening. It is gone. The mortgage renewal cliff is over, guys. Well, it's just not going to happen.
You heard it here first.
Right after you convince Tom to lock in finally.
No, I don't think that's a bad thing. Tom, what's your rate again? What's your rate?
It's a hint over 5.
Oh, now?
Yes, now. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, a hint over.
Even
5.
after a renewal?
Think about when I did it.
Because you might be looking to break again.
No, I'm not breaking again. My interest principal. I did a lump sum. I'm in a very good place. I'm not doing anything for a while. I'm very happy
because there's folks right now that are at like just over 5, say 5.25.
Yeah,
that are the rates are looking so attractive at the moment that they are canceling their mortgages after call it a year. And they are now, because I think it was like January was the bottom last year for like 5, or this year, I guess, for like 5.09 rates. And now that we've slipped under, there's a whole bunch of people that aren't even at their 1-year anniversary that are looking at it going, okay, maybe we should do something.
Time to finally break it. Well, if you look, right, like when the fixed rate was over 6, and now we're hearing, now these are the extremes, right? +6 on one side and then 3.99 on the insured, probably very niche product that they're offering to get you to call the bank. Uninsured 3.99?
CIBC, can you believe it? There might be a good reason to
I
call
actually-
those people finally.
I actually can't believe it. Okay, but so that difference is a 20% difference in purchasing power. Mike, we were together when Chris showed us that slide, which I then said in one of my previous videos, and one of the top comments was saying purchasing power has increased is a sneaky way of saying people can take on more debt, which I was like, that is true. That is actually very true. However, it also means that for the most part, your payment is less going to interest. Like personally, when I'm looking at my mortgage payment, all I care about is what's going to interest. The principal's mine. I'm paying into my house. That's mine. I get that money in the future. So now that rates have gone from 6 to 4-ish, or a little bit over 4, at some point, do we not think like, again, this is a doom and gloom or pumper podcast, depending on the week, depending on who's commenting on it. But like something's got to give here at some point. No, if people can borrow more money, it costs you less and you're pre-approved for more being stressed at a lower rate. Like Mike, are you seeing any pickup in your market?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly did in September. We saw a little bit of a push, but you know, the biggest part of my personal business is more discretionary real estate, so recreational or even retirement. Like I want to retire, but I don't have to right now. So, it's certainly been hit harder than say like a subdivision family home in Collingwood. So there's going to be lag, and because of the seasonal extreme seasonal downturns that we have here, like kind of post November 15th, I don't anticipate that yesterday's announcement is going to set the market on fire in the next 60 days. I think it may by middle of February, once we start to get the seasonal demand back and in an entirely different interest rate environment. But in the short term, it's not. I don't think it's going to materially change what's going to happen till the end of this year. So, but Tom, there's also
what's the condo market doing right now? Still absolute deadsville? Like you're giving away free ones now, or
not for free? However, we've sold actually quite a few of our condo listings in the last 30 days. The only ones that are really struggling are the small 1-bedrooms. Those are still really, really struggling.
So what's your months of inventory in condos?
For the city of Toronto, it is at 7. For the downtown markets that I work on one side at CO1, it's 7.5. CO8 is 10 months of inventory. So,
okay. So downtown Surrey, Wally right now is 28 months of supply. And prices have come down 5%. So I don't get it, right? Like if 7 months of supply in Toronto is the end of the world in the condo market, like I don't understand.
But in
That's barely a buyer's market.
Well, but if you're over 6 for a period of time, you will see pressure on prices moving down. So it's really just like, how long has it been in a buyer's market? And we've only been in it for 4.5 months, I'd say, at this point. So condo prices are dropping, and they will continue to drop for the rest of this year. I really believe it.
But you've entered the pool and you are in, you're still touching. You're up to your neck, but you're still touching. You're not even treading water yet. That's really where the condo market is at 7 months supply. It's not terrible. So is it just because all these Toronto people are used to making 50 grand a year or 100 grand a year on their properties, that just because maybe they got to come down 2.5%, that they're not happy? Is that what's going on? Because it seems like not a real market. That's not a bad market.
Well, I actually came prepared today. I did not to name drop on you or anything, but I did a Toronto Star interview about half an hour ago about the condo market. So I came prepared to that interview with some numbers. And there is currently, as of me recording this, and this is coming out 2 days after we record, 6,877 condos for sale in the city of Toronto. 3,200 of them are vacant. Half of them are vacant. 46% of them are vacant. Those are investors, for the most part, that are moving it. Only 33% of condos for sale is an owner living in it, selling the property that they are living in. that's got to be an issue at some point. If so much of the market is investor driven, the investors are selling them off, and every rate decrease may actually pull listings off the market because they're not getting hit as hard. But then you're like, well, who's buying it? And actually, Mike, when you said like your a lot of your clientele is potential downsizers or about to retire, I'd actually say for any real estate agents listening to us, that's the business you want to have right now, because they have the house that's going to sell and they're not as impacted by interest rates on the buy because they're buying with cash.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the difference in our buyers is like they're just waiting for, it's not an affordability issue.
Right.
It's a volatility issue, right? Like they just want to know that there's some price stability before
what do they want to know? They want to see it go up again before they get in?
Well, they don't necessarily want to see it go up, but they want to have a fairly high amount of confidence that they're going to buy their $2 million recreational property here, and it's not going to be worth 1.7 in 6 months, right? And that's been the risk over the last kind of 18 months, right? So, but it's, you know, I think if I were to poll our active buyers, I think that, you know, everybody is pretty much feeling that we're sitting at the very bottom right now, especially like what's happening with interest rates, right? Like I can't imagine, unless something really significant changes between now and spring, that we're not better off real estate value wise and demand wise come February of 2025. So,
and on the flip side of things, we've now noticed a massive increase in new buyers coming to our team that are first-time home buyers ready to enter. Yeah. So it's like, you know, on all levels of this, you're seeing it. I still haven't seen, we've had a few calls, but not many. The condo investor buyer still has not reappeared. They're still kind of hiding. You know, like the Homer Simpson in the bush, out of the bush kind of meme. They're still firmly in the bush, but the first-time home buyers have popped their head out. They're like, what's going on? You know, I can buy at a price from 5 years ago and rates are going down. You know, maybe it's time to actually get in. I wanted to bring up something that I've heard from every economist, every Twitter account has been commented on our channel, Steve, multiple times. And I want to actually try to challenge it with you guys. And I want your feedback on it. Every time an interest rate increase or decrease happens, it's going to take 12 to 18 months for the economy to fully feel the impact. That statement on its own, I believe to be true.
For the economy.
That's what I think people are missing. You know, they've seen it on Twitter from the person they follow. They've heard Ben Tal say it. They've heard Doug Porter say it. And it's like, that is true. So I decided to be a little bit of a detective on this and figure out, okay, but what about real estate prices? And although us three, maybe in our daily lives, seem to think real estate is the Canadian economy, there are in fact a few other things that go on here.
Not many.
I mean, we're trying to shut down Lululemon. So.
You're shutting down Lululemon?
They just want to cancel the owner. Anyway, keep going.
Oh, okay. All right. So
this episode is brought to you by Realty Ninja. Real estate agents, listen up. Realty Ninja has created over 9,000 Canadian real estate websites, and they are no joke. I've been using Realty Ninja in my business since they were a small little startup in North Vancouver. Tiny, dusty little office with old leather couch and all. But look at the ninjas now. Realty Ninja is the go-to platform for real estate agents in Canada. Websites are no longer a nice to have. They are a must. Your clients expect you to feature their listings in the best light possible. They expect you to go with Realty Ninja. The backbone of my real estate business is my website. I wouldn't pick any other company to host my website other than Realty Ninja. Don't believe me? Go to my website. Check it out right now. Go to krproperties.ca and you will see that it's powered by Realty Ninja and has been for over a decade. They have all of the features I need to grow my business year after year, including lead capture, mobile-friendly design, built-in SEO, and so much more. The best part of Realty Ninja is it's totally free to sign up, no credit card is required, and you only pay when you are ready to launch your new Realty Ninja website. And no, that's not it. Sign up today at realtyninja.com/Tom, and you will receive 20%, yes, 20% off of your entire first year when using Realty Ninja to host your real estate website. Their templates are super easy to work with yourself, or you can have the ninjas design something for you like I did. Not only is Realty Ninja the best product on the market, but it's also affordable. Listeners of this show know that I am as cheap as they come, and I've been using Realty Ninja for well over a decade now. Start your free trial today, and when you launch, save 20% using our link in the description below. And let Realty Ninja help you take your real estate business to the next level. And now, back to the podcast.
I started thinking about this, and I talked about this with a few people, and what I was kind of figuring out is like, okay, well, real estate prices are the leading indicator in either direction, on the up and on the down overall with what could potentially be happening, only because they're the most sensitive to these Bank of Canada changes, right? They're directly impacting what people can afford, what they're being qualified for. And even though you probably shouldn't spend the max you're qualified for, a lot of people do because it gets them what they want, right? And that eventually increases demand and then prices. So what I did, I actually went back and looked at the first rate increase we had was March 22, which was that 25er. And then the big one, the real jumbo one we had was July 22, which was the 1%. And I looked from then until now, and I picked 3 different markets. I did all of the Toronto real estate board, so the 6 different areas. And then I did the city of Toronto, and then I just picked Durham because Durham as like a suburb with all those different areas, they saw a little bit more fluctuation. They went up really fast and then dropped a lot faster as all the money exited the city. And I looked. And 24 months after that first rate cut, and even going back to the first rate increase, and even going back to the last rate increase that we had, which was July of 23, it's now been more than 12 months since then, since the final up that we had. If you look at the decrease in value off the top of the peak of the market, most of it happened in the first 6 months. So I'm not saying prices are going to shoot up right away or anything. I'm just saying hearing that statement and thinking in your mind that it's going to take 18 months for this to change anything about real estate sale prices, I think is just not true.
Most of it happened in the first the first two hikes. By
July, prices had, let's say if prices went down $100,000, just using a number, 85,000 of that happened in the first 6 months of the Toronto market with rates going up. I recognize the rates went up faster than they're coming down, but we're still going down pretty fast right now. And at some point, you're going to start see it making its way into the market, right?
So you're proposing that the economy will be affected 12 to 18 months, but the housing market may only take 6.
Yeah, because that's literally what the numbers told us from the last time we just went through this on. Like, can you guys push back on me? Can you tell me I'm wrong? Like, I'm trying to figure this out.
I think that from a real estate perspective, the timing of the cuts influences how fast the market reacts, right?
Sure.
So like we talked about, if you do a giant rate cut in November, it's going to have a different impact on the market immediately than if I drop the interest rate 50 basis points in March.
Right.
You know, it's that would be instant, right? The sentiment is instant, right? Like, I think consumer mindset is changed instantly, but yeah, like the economy is the economy year round. But like, we're so, like, even in Toronto, like, I mean, you're so seasonal. You're not as seasonal as me, but there's, you know, almost without exception, you know, the spring market always has the most volume of sales and the highest price points, right? So I think how long it takes for it to flush out in the actual data is largely driven by exactly when they make that call, which is why why they would be so hesitant, like they were last spring, to make a meaningful drop coming into a spring market and light the market on fire, right? So
it's relaxing things a little. So it's starting to signal to people that, you know, things will be okay. Kind of like it's almost like putting a little hope in to the market. right? A little positive spin, even though everybody right now is like, oh, this sucks. Rents are high and housing costs are
Rents
high.
are going
and
down in Toronto.
high right now. Rents are going down here too a little bit. But we'll talk about rents here in a sec. But I think it's just restoring a little hope at this time where now some people are going, oh, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe it's getting there, right? So then they start looking at the new year. And then if this happens again in December and we're a 3.25, and then it only takes another 1 or 2 early in the new year to get to that magical 2.75, there's a whole bunch of people that are going to be much happier and much more willing to start looking at things because the costing is getting much more attractive. Because that's what everybody's looking at. They're only looking at their monthly payment. That's all anyone is looking at.
So as the rates went up, right, prices were dropping pretty rapidly from the February 22 craziness that we saw. But the rates were going up so fast and the prices were dropping so fast that you're right, Steve, the average monthly payment, especially if you took a variable at that point, was just like it cost you way more to own that same property, at least on a monthly basis for the next few years. Now we're at a point that the cost of ownership on a monthly basis for a property is mathematically going to be lower, right? From where it was at fixed rates over 6 and the variable rate when the Bank of Canada was at 5% overnight rate, but the prices haven't gone up yet. And I guess the question is for buyers is how many more decreases do we have to see? And I'm talking about overall market, not condos. That's a whole different, there's too much on the market right now, but overall, how many more cuts until you actually start seeing prices move up and the cost of ownership isn't just cheaper on a monthly basis?
And why do people want to wait for prices to go up before they actually start acting on something? And then they're going to start this whole bloody thing all over again, right?
Well, that's Mike, are you worried this comes back too fast next spring?
Well, depending on what you're buying and what, like, all of our, like, we work in a number of kind of micro markets up here, right? And they all function very differently, whether or not it's recreational or, like we talked about, like in town Collingwood subdivisions. The most decimated product has been the pure recreational. So I think that there is a lot of pent up demand in our market. There's been so few transactions for discretionary real estate, right, that I have a feeling that market is going to rebound very quickly in the spring in an entirely different rate environment, because it's like people that are contemplating buying a $2 million recreational property. Right. I mean, it's not an affordability issue, right? It's just they've just not felt comfortable transacting in the environment. I think if that environment improves, that we are going to see a flood of people back in that have just been sitting on the sidelines, right? So it's I mean, it's probably the most optimistic I've been about the market, like the future market, that I have been certainly in the last 24 months. Like I think, and even with sellers, I've been very cautious about making any kind of price, like material price drops right now to get something sold, because, I have a feeling that if we cut a price materially right now, that I can't guarantee that's going to translate to traffic on the listing, but I'm pretty confident that come spring it will. So it's like, we're my clients that have the ability to hang on for another few months. I mean, that's been my general recommendation, depending on what kind of product they have exactly, but certainly luxury, recreational, like I would bet everything that's going to be an improved market come spring.
And so we can hear what you just said there and go, okay, the people where affordability wasn't even necessarily the issue, but just wanted the confidence that it's not going to get worse, they're going to potentially return here. And then you add in the fact that then there's a whole bunch of people that maybe don't own real estate, that affordability was an issue. They're being stressed lower and they're giving confidence that things are getting better on interest rates, and at some point they could come back and push things up here. But I think you're right. I think like nothing's going to change this year, but I think moving into early 25, it's crazy that's going to be 2025. I feel like it was just 2020, but things could change. I don't know, Steve, where are you at on that?
I don't know. I'm here. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
not a big. It's fine. It's all just fine right now. I feel like we should be shocking things more and getting more clicks by saying how this is terrible or that's fantastic or here comes the pump. But it's just like, it just seems to be in the Fraser Valley, just seems to be smoothing out. And the price charts are even saying it. I get to do the updates for my main channel, and my team's like, oh, things are down 0.2% year over year. And it's like, that's nothing. It's nothing.
Right. Yeah.
It's where we're at, man. It's maybe it'll go up a little, maybe it'll go down a little. I don't think we're going to end up with a crazy run, but I've been wrong on everything. I've been wrong on how fast it comes back every time. We were debating, is it going to be 2 quarter points or 3 quarter points, right?
Yeah.
And we're already just smashing that. So I don't know anything. What are you going to say? I don't know.
Well, if we want to actually look at the savings from what happened earlier this week, so it's $28.76 per $100,000 borrowed on a variable rate. What that actually means realistically is if you have a $500,000 mortgage on a variable rate, your payments per month are now coming down $150. If you have a $750,000 mortgage, your payments are coming down $215. And $1 million mortgage, for those out there that have $1 million mortgage on a variable rate, your payments are coming down $287 per month. Just from that 50 point cut. No, what I was giving you was 50 points.
We already had 2 though. So times 2. So
exactly.
Compared to the summer.
Yeah. So that is great news. I actually had a text, Mike, from a client when the Bank of Canada made their decision, and they were someone that bought a condo with us earlier this year. I asked him if I could share the story. He took a variable rate 7 months ago when they were high, very high, just because he's like, I feel like it's going to shift here. Since he's taken that rate, and I don't know exactly the discount he got on the rate at that time, but right now, from the whatever discount he got, where he got that mortgage, from all the cuts that have happened, his current variable rate is about the same or just slightly higher than a lot of 3-year fixed rates.
Yeah.
And if
that's the
pretty
case,
cool. Like you're one of the few that takes a risk. It's paying off.
Bank?
I didn't ask.
Okay. I'm just super interested to find out if because there's an 80% chance that his amortization is getting hammered down.
Yeah, I don't know if it's static or adjustable variable. I'd have to ask him that, but I would guess it would probably be adjustable. That would be my guess. They were very informed with what was going on. So
he's at Scotiabank. That's the only place.
Is that the only one?
It's the only one.
Is it really?
Yeah. Well, of the 5, it's the only one of the 5. So that's what I'm saying. So if you're anywhere else, your payment's staying the same. Your
amortization
going down. Is getting absolutely crushed. So
which one would you rather have,
I
Steve?
think that's an awesome thing. I think that's fantastic because now you have a fixed payment. It's going the other way. That guy's going to go get his bill in, I don't know, say he gets an annual statement mailed to his house, because I think they still mail them at most banks for at least once a year. And then you get it and you're like, I only have 16 years left. Right? Like, that's what's going to happen to a lot of people. And a whole bunch of people are going to be like, wow, I'm crushing it in real estate by mistake. Right? So I don't know. Let's talk rentals, Tom.
Wait, I don't want to talk rentals. I have a bigger topic for Mike. This morning, we're recording on a Thursday. This comes out on a Sunday. I'm trotting around. I'm having my coffee. I turn on CP24 and I see a news conference happening with JT and the housing minister. And Michael, it is finally happening. Canada is cutting their immigration numbers.
Hey folks, Tom and his team are using a new tool from TRESAvideo.ca to help them explain RICO's information guide to their clients. And if you're an agent in Ontario looking to increase your transparency and trust with your clients in an easier way, you too can go to TRESAvideo.ca right now and get your own custom branded RICO Guide Explainer video that can simply be added to your email signature, put on your website, or integrated into any CRM email campaigns. And if you go to TRESAvideo.ca right now and use the promo code TOMSHOW, you can save 20% off your purchase. So don't wait, go to TRESAvideo.ca right now, enter the code TOMSHOW on checkout, quickly upload your branding, and receive your new video from TRESAvideo.ca right now.
So their 2025 targets are now 395,000, down from 500,000. Okay. 2026 is 380,000. 2027 is 365,000, all down from 500,000. With an asterisk, temporary residents to decrease to 300,000 in 2025, down from 330,000. I'm not a mathematician, but that sounds like a very small percentage change on the temporary residents. Maybe, Steve, do you want to start? Because I can see you.
Did Dr. Evil come out and announce the numbers?
A million trillion.
Trillion, billion, million, trillion. It's kind of silly because I like how they like to pretend that our immigration was 480,000 people last year, when for 3 years in a row it's been 1.2 million. So obviously that includes non-permanent and foreign workers and all these different things that are happening. But it's like, we're going to change our target, and we're also going to then put on a blindfold and keep shooting at the target. Like, we're hitting over there, we're hitting over there. They're missing the target by 1.5 or 2 times anyway. So what's the point? I don't know. It seems absolutely silly to me. I don't know why they would even make this as an announcement. This is basically saying publicly, we've screwed up so bad, we're going to stop screwing up by maybe 20%.
Yeah.
Like, it's frustrating to me that this is even an announcement. It's frustrating to me.
Mike, what is Twitter saying about this morning?
You're not on Twitter, are you, Mike?
It's called X, Steve.
Actually, yeah. I was at a conference the other day, and they were talking about this website called the Death Clock, where you answer a bunch of questions and then it tells you when you're going to die. And it turns out having an X account was costing me about 11 years of my life. So in terms of my overall optimism towards the world, so I deleted it for a week, but I had to re-engage for my prep for this podcast. So I had to get the real news, so I would share it with everyone this week. So, yeah, I mean, it is such a mess that, I don't know how they're going to fix it, nor do they really have any desire to fix it, right? It's like you said, like, we make all these great announcements, but oftentimes, like over the last 6 months, oftentimes when they've finally caved and made a decision to claw back immigration in a certain category, then the next day they announce that they're opening up the door somewhere else, right? That we're going to cut this, but we're going to allow more in this area, right? So it's just
it's almost like when you're growing up and you get a really bad grade on your test and you have to show your parents. It's like they were getting 20% and now they're like doing a news conference because they're like, well, we only got 25%. We still failed, but it was a little bit better than what we were previously doing. So let's tell everybody and make a big noise about it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I'm happy about now is that this is now an open conversation. Whereas, anybody that knew anything knew this was a serious train wreck coming 3 years ago, right? But you couldn't talk about it. If we talked about it on this podcast, your comments would just be full of, oh, you're anti-immigration.
No, you're anti. There's
whatever.
a new catchphrase, Mike. There's a new catchphrase. You're anti-humanist.
Anti-humanist, exactly. So I'm at least excited about that. You know, people are talking about it, and we're having constructive conversations around it, and hopefully that leads to, you know, us coming up with a better plan that is integrated with, you know, our housing and overall infrastructure, whether that be, you know, our healthcare, everything, right? So, because if you can't talk about it, you know, we can't put any political pressure on our leaders to make changes that work well for Canadians. So, although like nothing has really been changed to get this to where it needs to be, it is, I think now it's the number one item that Canadians are voting on right now, right? Like it's you know, which is why we're getting all these announcements by the Liberal government, right? Like they know that they have to make changes or they're not going to get any votes, right? So,
and then on the
and I still think that, and I think you would agree, like Canadians are very pro-immigration generally. Like, I mean, compared to so many other countries, like I do think that it is a strength of our country if it's done the right way, right? So I don't think Canadians are against like even a very healthy amount of immigration coming in relative to other countries, but it's got to have guardrails on it, not just for us as Canadians, but for the people that are coming here, right? That have been sold, like, you know, their families put all their money on the line for their kid to come over here, and he ends up, you know, sharing an apartment with 12 other guys, and his amazing university education is in like some plaza in the commercial plaza in the middle of nowhere. It's just like it's unfair. And what did you say they call it? What they're calling anti-immigration sentiment now? What was the?
It's anti-humanist. Donald Trump, because he wants to secure the borders in the States, is now anti-humanist.
Yeah. So it's anti-humanist, bringing in people and not giving them any opportunity. So yeah. So anyway,
well, it's legit though, because Tom, I'm trying to break in here because I got something to say and I want to say it many, many times over. And
you don't have to announce yourself; just go for it. Yeah.
I'm seeing it because I'm renting a condo right now, and this is by far the worst tenant pool that I've ever had applying for my condo ever.
So this is your condo, and can you classify to me why you believe it's the worst? What means worst?
A good tenant for me is someone with a good income, a good job, that is going to take care of the property. And I would assume, I'll get in trouble for this, but I would assume live by some sort of standard that I think most of us would be accustomed to growing up and living in Canada. That's what I look for, right? And you would be shocked at the situations that people are coming to me with to be, for instance, I am a foreign student. I am coming to Canada at this time or whatever. How many other students will you let me have in your condo? And they're literally like applying at 6 and 8. This is a 2-bedroom, 800 square foot place. They're applying at 6 and 8 people to try and pay the $2,400 a month rent. I've had messages and I've screenshotted them. I am a refugee from, I've had every country. I've had Syria. I've had Afghanistan. We are for instance, this one was the one I'm thinking of just offhand. I'm a single mother. I have a kid in university, and I have a kid in high school, and I have a kid in elementary school. Don't worry about the rent. we are on asylum salary. And so I Googled asylum salary. Turns out it's a roughly $2,000 per person that the Canadian government is paying to bring these people over. And here's why they're not a good tenant. I'm not saying they're not good people. They shouldn't deserve opportunity. They're not coming from a war-torn country, all that stuff. Great. But as a landlord, the guaranteed government income could dry up very, very quickly. And then those people here, and why I've been on such a run lately with this crazy election that we're having here in BC, is if those people stop paying, the average time I think is almost 360 days now to get somebody out when they're not paying their rent. Right. So that is not a good tenant. And it was the overwhelming majority. Most of the tenants, by about probably 90%, were looking for 4 or more people. And that is not my ideal tenant. It's not that I wouldn't consider it. I've had.
Are you allowed to have that many people in that unit, like bylaws for the building, though?
Oh, well, here's the thing that people don't know, that most cities have a bylaw for how many people can be in a unit. A 2-bed is 4 people in most cities. So this is all getting tossed out the window now, right? So most
4 adults,
4 people.
I mean, yeah, okay,
doesn't really matter. So, but I've rented a 2-bed, 2-bed 1-bath before that I used to own to a family of 4, and I had no problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. It's just not ideal if you can have less wear and tear on the unit and you can get somebody else in there, right? So it was a tough go. I have now rented it out. I found a very good tenant. My rule of thumb is you are my tenant if you have an over 800 credit score. But if you're living on government assistance with no credit and a family of 6, probably not the most ideal tenant. But those people now have to live somewhere, because guess what? JT and the gang was like, come on in, guys. Come sleep in this basement, in that basement. We're hearing stuff.
Steve, let me just... Even living in some basement with a bunch of people is a way better life situation than where they were.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm not saying it's on you to give them that. I'm just saying, like, you can look at this from every perspective. It's like,
Tom's such a great humanist.
No, I like to push back on you sometimes because I totally understand what you're saying. But for that family, Canada welcomed them in from a terrible situation where they could have died.
They didn't get my rental.
I'm not saying I'm not saying it's your responsibility to give them housing.
But I'm saying they didn't. They so far have not ended up with a good place to be. They didn't get my rental.
But they'll find something. Someone will be open.
They will find somewhere where they're not sleeping outside. Yes, but the conditions that we're seeing. So I've spoken to. I've got many friends that are in policing. I've got a few peripheral that are in like things like fire departments. This is what I heard the other day. No way to verify it. The fire department is now on the guys like and girls are now on the truck and they're going to like an emergency call. They got a pool going on in the truck on the way there to count mattresses to see, because it's getting so out of hand that they're like, I can't believe that we're walking into basement suites that have 12 mattresses on the floor. And it's happening.
Mike, but is this happening in your market, or is this a Steve market specific thing that we're talking about?
Not often here. Not yet. Not yet.
But I guarantee you it's happening in Toronto.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah, for sure it is.
So I guess well, this is probably going deeper into this than you want. So you mentioned
deep, Mike. Let's go deep. We're deep.
Well, you mentioned the like the government assistance that this asylum seeker is getting here in Canada. So do you think a simple solution to curbing immigration would be changes or an audit to what we're providing in terms of government assistance? Do you think, like you guys were kind of arguing over, like, is it necessarily better than where they've come from? From like, obviously, if you're coming from somewhere where there's war going on, but not everyone is in that case. Would they choose to come to Canada if the monetary benefits of coming here were not as strong?
Maybe,
Do you know?
not.
Do you know what I mean? Like, would Canada is Canada really? Are they drawn to Canada because it's so much better than where they're coming from, or are they drawn because look at these unbelievable benefits that we're going to get for?
I don't want to put,
but I don't know anything about this. So.
I don't want to put any sort of blame or negativity towards the person who is receiving the benefit. That's one thing I want to be clear on. I don't think
100%
ill of that at all. The dummy's running the operation, though. So let's do this. How many Canadians right now have a household income of $60,000 to $80,000 that are having trouble making ends meet? And they're working every day, and they can't afford their rents, right? Rents have skyrocketed 20% plus. They're having trouble putting food on the table. And those dopes that had that press conference this morning are handing out $70,000 of taxpayer money to somebody that's not from our country originally already. They're not even here yet. And they're like, here, start taking this money, right? Like, that's probably the issue. And that's what's caused so much of this. So if you didn't have that many of those people coming that are putting more strain, you got to worry about who's here now. That's where we got to go with this, right? Like, that's where the focus should be. The people that are already here are getting worse, and we're inviting more people.
Steve,
it's not the people coming's fault.
This is no different than getting a phone plan or going to the bank. They'll do things to get a new customer, will not do anything for the customers they already have. Like, they'll create incentives to get a new customer versus the people that actually built up your business you forgot about, and you won't tell them that I could get you $20 off your phone plan, but if it's a new customer, I'll give you that deal.
This is my favorite analogy you've ever used. I appreciate that so much. And guess what? 2 years into our contract, we all hate our phone company or whoever's you're talking about, right? Because we're pissed off that we didn't read the fine print, and now we're getting screwed. And by the way, the bill's getting turned up, even though my guaranteed dollars for that plan is this. Every 39 days, by the way, it goes up by 25 cents. Like, this is what we're living in.
He was just mad, Mike, that when he got his My5 10 years ago, he only had 3 people he could put on his phone plan because he didn't have 5 friends.
2 open spots. Mike, you want a spot?
Yes, I do, actually.
Until my kids, there you go.
Hey, podcast listener, if you're looking to buy or sell a property in Surrey or the Fraser Valley, you have to reach out to Steve Karrasch, my co-host. As much as we make fun of each other on this show, the truth is that I do this podcast with him because he is reliable. He has an opinion. He knows what he's doing. He has a ton of experience. And although I have never personally sold a home with Steve, if I were and I was in that area, he would be my number one choice. And let's be honest with each other. As much as he has a hard exterior on the show, he's a little bit of a softie once you get digging a little bit deeper. So you can reach out to Steve. It's link in the description. I hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
But I don't know. I think it's frustrating that we're having all of this cost problem, and they're celebrating something as silly as this. A very reasonable amount was half of this number, and we lived on that for a long time, and we did not focus on bringing in people that we had to pay to come. People paid us to come. That was one of the methods. We took investment. We took $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 from families, and they had to invest in Canada in order to come. Now we're paying them, please come, so we can get another, what? I don't know. I think I'm going down a crazy thing here where we're like filling up the pyramid scheme, Tom. It is all a bubble, Tom. We've come full circle.
So let me ask you this. If we have a government change next year and the Conservatives come in, do you think that they will completely overhaul the immigration system, or do you think they'll just settle in at these new numbers?
I think politicians are liars, and they will never do what they say.
So, do you think we will go back to an immigration policy that we saw, say, in 2014, Or do you think
I would
this
like,
is this
I would
is
like
this
to
is
see
the
the
new norm?
percentages.
Yeah.
I would like to see the percentages, and I would like to see the point system where you have to come in with a skill or finances. Like that's what we need. We need skill and we need money. We don't need unskilled people that are going to be a drain on our free healthcare. We don't need that. And I don't think anybody wants that. Nobody here would vote for that.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you?
I have immigrant friends that are like fresh to the country within 10 years that are saying this immigration is crazy. Like, what are you guys doing? Right?
Yeah.
So it's frustrating.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I mean, it is, if they were to actually make significant changes, I mean, like you owning some of these student rentals and some of these, like, I mean, you're going to just get the legs cut out from under you, right? So, and we're already starting to see it, right? So,
but
anyway,
all the treading water we're doing here, very carefully using words that we're using. At the end of the day, you can see.
Storey Show canceled.
No, but what you can see is that, Steve, in BC, your election still hasn't been figured out because they're recounting all the votes. But
we'll let you know.
But the Conservatives went from having 2 seats to almost 50-50. They had 1 to almost 50-50. I know it looks like the NDP, we'll see what happens here. Maybe it's announced before this comes out. It still looks like they're it's 1 seat difference, and the Greens are actually going to decide what happens here now because they have the other 2. But in that period of time, in a place like BC that was very, very left, very quickly it's almost become 50-50 based on the voters. So it's like what we're talking about, all the things going on. I know that's a provincial thing, but it seems like a lot of Canadians are adjusting how they feel about things, and they're using their votes to make themselves heard. That's a clear example. We
can only hope that continues to happen, right? Like it's got to be that people have to vote that way. I just think that most people are probably super surface level still, right? They're probably like, I'm conservative, so I vote blue, and that's just what happens. And then I want to be compassionate, so I vote orange here, and that's just what happens. And then there's a very small percentage that actually changes and goes, maybe your policy's good, maybe your policy's bad. Like the city center of Surrey, what decided it for the NDP so far, maybe the recount has changed it, was 24 votes. If you don't think your vote matters right now, folks, your vote matters. 24 votes is what took the seat in an area where there's 100,000 people, 150,000 people. 24 votes took the difference. I don't know, pretty nuts to me.
Yeah, I think this is more people have switched party in the last 3 years than probably any time, but certainly Canadians. I mean, I would have been a Liberal voter my entire life until
I don't think the people have
right?
switched though, Mike. I think the parties have switched.
Oh,
have switched what they stand for, because when I grew up, which was a long time ago, Tom Storey, make your joke here, the Liberals were a center-right party. That's where they've always have been. They were big corporations. They were big profits, lots of jobs. That's what they wanted. And now they're not that. And that seems to be gone. I don't even know what's going on now with that. But and people are going to shift. And I think they should shift. And they should think about the policies that are there rather than just wave their team colors. Because guess what? Toronto Blue Jays suck. And somebody else likes, what do we like here?
You guys don't have a baseball team.
We like the Mariners. It's 2 hours away. Okay. Sorry, let's go Leafs. You're wearing your Leafs hat. I should have gone Leafs. Why didn't I go Leafs?
It's too easy of a target. They get made fun of enough. Let them be.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch the topic, because if YouTube hasn't demonetized us.
All right, now, Mike. So anyways,
I see why you didn't send me the topics before this call. I might have bowed out of this one.
I just wanted to say, though, I did rent out my condo yesterday. Fantastic tenant. Everything seems to be working out. Increase for me, less than I thought it would rent for. Crazy, but a dramatic increase in rents. And there
you
are
kept
good
it
tenants out there. You just got
because you were going to sell it.
I was going to sell it.
Hey, Mike. Theoretical question here: if someone knocked on your door or your door, Steve, and wanted to buy your house, would you sell it for the right price?
Well, it's funny that you asked that. Generally, yes, but funny enough, I've had someone basically knocking on my door over the past week and a half. But the challenge is there's not a lot of great inventory on the market right now, right? Because the people that don't have to sell know that we're at the tipping point of things getting better. So the people that have got really good quality real estate, unless they have to be leaving right now, they're not listed for sale. So it's finding somewhere to go. That's a challenge, at least in our market. I will say this, and we didn't really touch on it, and like, I hate doing this in social media, and like a rate cut comes, buy now, like, it's, you're never going to have this opportunity. But I truly do believe that if you're in a position to transact right now in the next 90 days, that there's some deals to be had. Like, seller sentiment, like, unless they can weather the storm, is pretty low. Like, if it doesn't happen in the next 2 weeks, it's not happening until spring in our market. So, the inventory that is out there, like, there's some opportunities as a buyer, and I don't think those are going to exist in the spring when demand comes back and everyone comes back as sheep, like they always do, right? Like, as soon as things start accelerating, everybody comes back in at the same time. Like, it's so.
I'm just hopeful that when things do pick up again, it doesn't go to absolute stupidness like we've previously all seen. I hope it's just like, a reasonable seller's market, and, and it gets back to that. I just really hope it doesn't turn too quickly. That's not going to be good.
Crazy is it seems, at least in my market, it seems like prices are now being seasonal. Like, it was never that way before.
Yeah, we have. You mean like spring? You demand much higher pricing.
Yeah, like, when you look at the actual charts and you see like inventory, and that obviously rises, and the amount of sales rises, and it's very seasonal. But prices were always not seasonal. But now it's like the last 3 years, you're seeing December, January be this dip, and then it swings up, and then it tops out sometime in late spring. And like, that wasn't, I think that's what everybody thinks it always does, but it was never really that way for us. But now these last 3 years, like this December again, looks like it's going to be a bottom. It could very well shape up to be another bottom for another 6 or 9 months after that. The problem now, I think, though, is maybe it was always that way, but the difference was only 10 grand. Now maybe the difference is 75, well, $100,000.
Steve, what I was talking about earlier with the 12 to 18 months of time that needs to pass for the rate cuts or increases to impact the economy fully. If you look at all three of those charts, and at some point I'll post an actual video on this on the main channel, other than July 2022, where most of the drop happened in price, there's only 2 other times where average sale price was lower than that, which was January 2023 and January 2024. Which is always a low average sale price month. So it's like, yes, technically it went down further for that month when no sales happened, but otherwise most of the dip that we had happened pretty quickly. So
you're trying to fill your sales funnel for December.
Just it's the numbers. You don't have to like it, but it's what the numbers are saying. All right, Mike, I'll see you soon in Toronto in the next little bit. Oh yeah, Steve is also coming. Remember, if you listen this far in the podcast, live podcast next weekend, November the 3rd, Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mike, I'm expecting you to be in the chat of that episode.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Is there an actual live audience for that too, or
you can come watch?
Well, here's what I was trying to do. So I was trying to get Tom to do it from his hot tub. So me and him in the hot tub, and live stream it, and he just won't do it. So I'm totally okay to have my shirt off on camera. Turns out Tom Storey is not. Tom, interesting. Sorry, Tom. I hate to break this to you. Tom, a little hairier than you would think.
This has just gone awry. This episode, that's just
hairier than you might think.
Wow.
Oh, is this
I
worse
feel-
than the anti-humanist talk we were having before?
Oh,
I feel honored that you guys invited me for your last podcast ever. So it's
we could only have this conversation with you.
This was
else
fun.
would have hung up by
Yeah.
This is why I wanted to have you this week, Mike, because I just wanted to talk to someone I respected and that I really appreciate, and Steve just didn't cut it this week, so I wanted to have you here.
Do I
thank
cut
you.
it any week, Tom?
Some weeks you're a cut above, but most weeks you're a cut below.
Not this week.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Anyone that is looking to buy or sell real estate in the Southern Georgian Bay, am I saying that correctly? Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah.
As much as we've made jokes for the last hour, Mike is really damn good at what he does. His team has a lot of market share up there. Give them a shout if you're looking to buy in that area. I've referred clients up there because they know what they are talking about. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Mike's info will be in the description below, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Thanks, guys.